All right, it worked. Woo-hoo. I was a little worried my camera wasn't going to turn on because it literally shut off right when I went to that intro scene. And it was like, uh-oh, is my camera going to work? I'm having some camera issues. Ever since I got back from IASIS, or not IASIS, it was Techno. So IASIS was first, then Techno. I've been having issues. I don't know if I hooked something up wrong or whatever. But anyway, welcome everyone to the show on Friday. I know we didn't do one last week at all, just because I was completely burnt out from doing, I think it was 9 in a row at Techno Security. It was a little insane. And I was just like, I just want to stare at the wall and do nothing. But so, again, sorry about that. We're back this week and we'll continue to be back. Hopefully week after week on Fridays, and I won't be too burnt out for you. I know we've been running this for the last little bit, and I should ask Megan before I go and promote it because it's probably closed already. How's our trivia doing, Megan? I'll ask her and she'll kind of answer me in Slack over there and see. First of all, hey, I see there's some people hanging out. Where are you guys from? Say hi to everybody. Everybody say hello. If you're here, there's literally one trivia spot left. So we don't know what's going to happen when it goes over. So our monthly trivia, if you go into Cyber Social Hub, if you're a member, you can jump in there. There's a little QR code in the upper left corner. You can just click on that. I think it'll take you to our trivia. If you're on the mobile app, hit the menu button in the lower little right corner, and then it'll pop up and you'll see trivia right there. You can play it that way. It's a $100 gift card from our friends at Vound. So you can absolutely do that. As well. I need to switch over because I know we have a sponsor here somewhere in this show, and I did not get prepared because I was having camera issues. So I was like, oh no, camera issues. And now there's a sponsor and I'm not ready to read it yet. But I'm going to pop that up so we have that. Megan's in wonderful Ohio. Dan is in Michigan. All right, Dan. All right. And we're going to bring our guest on here in just a second. I apologize for leaving him in the green room so long. Because I am pulling up the spot for it. There we go. Hey, so today, this Hubcast is sponsored by the PFIC conference, which is 2023 event. It's all virtual this year. If you've not been to it, I've been to this event for I don't know how many years now. It's been a lot, but it's virtual. So no travel. You don't have to worry about any of that stuff. You can earn actually up to 25, I think it is, CPE credits just for attending. It's $199. And you'll get access to the live broadcast, all the recordings until the end of 2023. I think it is in September, Megan, if you can correct me. I don't know when the dates are of that thing. But if you head over to pfic-conference.com, that's pfic-conference.com, you can go and check that one out all for yourself and find out the dates. So there you have it. So without further ado, I'm going to bring my guest on here. And most of you guys, it's August 1st to the 4th. Sorry. There you go, Megan. Thank you. You guys should know who this guy is. If not, then you've been living under a rock. Hey, Brian, how are you?
I'm good. And yourself?
Oh, doing fantastic, man. I just saw you a couple weeks ago. We were in Wilmington. Yeah.
Wilmington. Beautiful Wilmington. Yeah.
Yeah, that was a good show. I was, obviously everyone's always a little hesitant when they switch locations, but what do you think of the new venue?
It was good. It was good. I mean, obviously, for me, the main thing is always the seeing the people and see that I haven't seen in a while. As I've told folks before, I went there for like 10, 12, 15 years and only went to the beach once. So as much as it was a beautiful beach in Myrtle Beach, I did not take advantage of it. So to me, it's more about the people than the location. But it was a good time. So.
Oh yeah, that's why I think you told me that story when we were standing there. You're like, I never went to the beach except I did it one time. Yeah, I mean it's nice because you look out the windows and you go out into the break area and it's beautiful views in Myrtle. And
yeah.
Then you're just like, oh yeah, that's neat. I'm going back into the air conditioner. That's the way it works out. But no, I thought the new venue was pretty neat. I liked you could walk to a bunch of different pubs. You could a bunch of different restaurants. You had options. You just didn't have the kind of locked into the. Yeah. Although the hotel cheesecake in Myrtle Beach was pretty awesome. I get or not. It was key lime pie or cheesecake. That's what it was. That's good.
Yeah. It was a good show for you.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah. So, some of the people know already if they walk by the booth and talk to us at all, because we were set up right there in the hallway. My wife was running the booth, right? Nicole was running the booth. And at IASIS, obviously we go there just to get people signed up for Cyber Social Hub. It's free. Come on, join, have fun. And I had 157 signups in IASIS. So I was like, yes, I crushed it. And then she didn't think there's no way in heck that she was going to beat that score, right? The signups, but she was cheating. Well, not really cheating. She was using the resources she had available to her, I guess is the better way.
Creative.
Yeah, she was giving away our challenge coin, right, to everyone who signed up. Plus, we had all kinds of extra swag. So she'd give them the really good swag. If she was, you call back to your department or your agency, and then have them sign up. I'll give you one of these. So man, I didn't limit it to just people at the show, but she rocked it. She got 168, I think. She blew me away.
Nice.
Yeah. So we got 168.
I never knew quite what to do when I walked by and you were interviewing people, whether I should, make a big deal about this so they'd like get distracted or make faces at them if they're trying to be serious with you on camera or not. It's like,
I think people should maybe watch the show before they come on and know that it's never serious. Yeah.
Exactly.
It's like, do you know me? not the way it works. We just have fun. That's forensics is sometimes boring enough, and got to bring some entertainment to it.
Yeah.
So Brian, so people that don't know who you are, which like I said, there shouldn't be too many, but how did you get started in this crazy industry?
So I kind of fell into forensics many years ago. So I started off went to college for I was gonna go for music, and my dad, the engineer, said you should really think about a more practical degree. And so I went for engineering. So I did a lot of like recording equipment and synthesizers and keyboards. And so I went for electrical engineering, so I was going to design all that kind of stuff.
Nice.
And my first internship, I went to Northeastern, which is a big internship co-op program. So my first internship, I was doing IT at a industrial design firm. And they got their first firewall connection while I was there, their first internet connection. And some guys from Fidelity Investments were moonlighting on the side, setting up the firewall. And this was like my first intro to like security in various things for these two guys who were like, I forget what it was called. It was floppy disk firewall on Linux, kind of thing. So I was that was my first intro to it, and then got into cryptography and encryption. I was big into crypto for a while. Went to grad school at Purdue thinking I was going to be a crypto person. Got my butt kicked by a bunch of math PhDs who just think in this crazy algebraic world that I do not think in. And at the time, I was also doing security consulting at Stake, and then also did the HiNet project at the time. Did a forensics challenge, and so I was a little kind of capture the flag in year 2000 or 99 or somewhere on there, kind of did this capture the flag thing on this forensics challenge of some compromised Linux box, and realized some open source tools called the Corners Toolkit were kind of a bit limited for the challenge. And so I just started adding more features to the Corners Toolkit, which eventually became the Sleuth Kit. And then just kind of, I don't know, got in the space of doing consulting in forensics, but all kind of started by me getting my butt kicked in cryptography and the HiNet project's initial forensics challenge long ago. So
that's freaking awesome. And then of course you went on to write a book that I don't know how many copies that book is out there and around. I still have mine. It's in the other room and on my bookshelf, and still have it. I got that. I think those were standard issue at IASIS the years that I went through.
I think so. I think it's still kind of a required part of the course. So it's out of print though, so I'm not sure they required the Kindle version now, or what the process is now.
Sounds like it's time to update it, Brian. Just
I know.
I know a few authors, and man, I don't know how you guys even have the patience to do it without
It's before I get burnt out. I was young and
right. Hey, I got a question. I never knew that part about the music degree you were headed for. What was? Did you have an instrument that was your favorite? What did you play?
I did drums, percussion, keyboards, piano. I think.
Oh, you did all kinds of stuff. Do you still play anything, or do you?
No.
You know, guys about our age have that second, like, let's start a band. It's a
Yeah.
really good idea.
Yeah.
You're not going to get the old band back together or anything.
No. We my parents like empty out their house whenever they come to our house. Like they just kind of like bring stuff of like, this is your problem. You deal with this, right? A thing. So they keep on going to the basement and bringing things over. So I get a keyboard every now and then, and so we have one set up, but the kids play on it, but
Yeah.
I haven't anymore. So
Too busy with other stuff
so,
now. So Frank says he got his copy of your book just in October from Amazon. So there are copies still out there.
Cool.
I'm going to wait another year for it to be out of print and then see what eBay can do for us. I'll get you to sign it and then I'll make a little bit more. Yeah, here we go. Right on. So tell me a little bit about what you're doing now.
Yeah. So I mean, so in the past many years have been at Basis. We've always done kind of two things. One is the autopsy side of the house, right? Which actually started off by that initial HiNet project thing 20 plus years ago.
Wow.
But that's been kind of, it was dormant for a while. It's kind of between versions 2 and 3. It was dormant for a while, but the good past 10 years we've been going with version 3. So a bunch of what we do is around that, and it slowed down a bit. We had a couple of contracts that were helping us to really build that functionality out, and those have kind of changed over time. We were very lucky to have people who were willing to pay us to build stuff for them, and a bunch of it would go back out as open source so that everyone would benefit. And honestly, it was an amazing resource in some ways, and an opportunity for people to have this access to free open source software. But unfortunately, those changed priorities, and so we're still maintaining it. There's a release coming out in a couple weeks.
Really?
The new thing there is a different way of keyword searching, and so we don't have to maintain the Solar index, which has always been kind of the slowest part of autopsy, is maintaining the keyword search index. So we added in an approach where you can pre-enter your keywords and just kind of do that triage level analysis without having to maintain the Solar index. If you just want to kind of figure out, do I care about this box or not? Kind of thing. So.
Yeah, I always use autopsy to introduce to my students when I was teaching the college course. And just to kind of give them an intro into it. So
yeah, it's a great tool, honestly. I mean, in terms of like, I can't take full credit for it. Like I haven't written code for it in ages, but no, it's kind of it's got a lot of the basic features that and unique things that in terms of the collaboration and the kind of team server, distributed model, and kind of processing data 24/7, and kind of a whole bunch of stuff that a lot of the commercials don't even have. That we built for some of our customers, right? But so it's good. There's a lot of stuff there. So
I know a couple agencies that are using that as their primary tool. I mean,
yeah.
Just a couple here in Ohio that I know. It's a prosecutor's office. Absolutely.
Yeah. So that's one thing we do a lot of, and then the other one is cyber triage, which started off as an autopsy module, right? That we basically focused on intrusions, but then it kind of went its own way to a separate tool. But the basic idea is providing kind of analytics, right, for intrusion investigations. My big belief is the future of forensics is all about the analytics, right? It's all about there's more and more data everywhere, right? We're never going to be able to kind of keep up with it. And it's all about how do we use the tools to help us kind of identify, where to look. All right. I like to compare, forensics. To me, it's like Alta Vista search in the 90s, right? Where it's like you can enter a keyword and it gives you, a long list of like websites, right? But we don't have like the Google PageRank yet equivalent for forensics to be like, you want this? Well, just go here. This is kind of what you want, for this, kind of thing. And so that's really what we try to do with cyber triage. Is all about how do we bake in kind of the investigative questions that people ask for intrusions, like is there suspicious account activity, right? Is there malware on here? Is there whatever of kind of these questions you're going to look around for artifacts for, and how do we just kind of bake in how you answer those, right? So that you can get scoring in there, and we really focus on the scoring so that we can say, hey, start looking here, right? This process is suspicious, right? Or this login is suspicious. Check out what happened, during this time frame, things, and trying to dig into things like recommendation engines so that if you flag one thing, right, we want to make sure you pull in all the threads. So it's like, hey, you thought that process was interesting? Well, hey, you should know that it was talking to this host, right, at this time, right? So you may want to look at that host, or this user account's the one that launched that process, and they remote desktop from this host. So you should probably make sure you start looking at that, and trying to kind of, make sure you're pulling all the directions here, since it can be, I think Trojans in particular can be very hard to investigate, right? Because there's so many clues. You've got an active adversary trying to hide things, right? And so that it's easy to miss stuff, right? So trying to make sure everyone follows up on all the leads. So it's been good. It's been fun.
Yeah, and cyber is never my strong suit. I'll admit my weaknesses in a heartbeat. And your tool really makes it a lot easier. I mean, for digital investigators or forensic investigators that maybe don't understand the cyber stuff quite as much.
Yeah.
Help say, hey, look here. Here's why.
Yeah. It's interesting. It was not the intended use case, but we've been getting an increasing number of law enforcement who get it to use on victim systems, right? Of kind of a citizen who contacts them. It's like, hey, this happened or whatever, right? And they can there's enterprise like deployments, but you can also run off a USB drive, right? And they can, do a little mini collection, of the person's computer and run through it and just kind of give them some basic feedback and ideas here on, what may have happened in their system, if it's infected or not infected, but just some level like interaction, with citizens or, whatever, to kind of help them out, with that, which is not the intended thing, but just it's kind of a thick, kind of a quick scan to look for things. So
that's great. Yeah. And there's a lot of skill set, I think, that, the forensic examiner, a lot of them are lacking on the cyber side. And I think we had talked a little bit at the conference of how that crossover is becoming more and more, and as it probably should. But what do you think are some top skills? And we'll just start with one now, and we'll move on to the next one afterwards, that a forensic examiner should have over in the cyber side.
Yeah, I think, I mean, that's a good question. My bias, I guess this is I really like knowing how computers operate, honestly, right? And it's like, and it's just more of like, maybe it's more of my engineering background, but if you go through like computer science programs or things, you'll find that kind of people have different kind of interests in there. Some people love algorithms. Some people love like ways of efficiently calculating things and, whatever. And they're algorithm, people, right? Other people are like code style, whatever people, and just love the elegance of like beautiful code. I'm a systems person. Like I like knowing how like operating systems, kind of work and applications work and kind of all of the moving parts, for that. And to me, that's what I always kind of gravitate for, especially for any kind of investigation, but especially with intrusions on like what's actually going on in the computer. Like, what does the operating system do? Like, what are the various parts of the operating system that are getting involved, when this person, logs in or the process launches, right? Because that's kind of where all the artifacts come from, right? Is like most of these artifacts aren't there or weren't intended to be there for actually investigations. They're just kind of byproducts. Like prefetch is there as a byproduct of the OS wants to kind of preload, things for you to make launch time faster. And so at some point, it's kind of like understanding kind of what the various parts of the operating system are to kind of figure out like, where could there be evidence, things for this, or this thing is claiming something happened, like understanding what its role is to then figure out like, what does this actually mean? If it makes a reference to that. So, I mean, to me, I think that's kind of the really, in some ways critical part of the investigation side. Of course, there's importance to kind of know, how attacks happen and whatever. But to me, honestly, I feel like the details of like how an exploit works, on a given application is a bit less interesting, I think, on the forensic side of the point is this application was exploited, right? And the person got root access and got access, right? At that point, that's kind of
Yeah.
where the investigation part happened, right? Eventually, you may need to figure out who came in from that application, but the innards on what the Stack Overflow or SQL injection thing are at that point become a little less relevant, I think, right? Than what kind of happens after, right? What attackers do, how do they move laterally around, what are they doing on the systems there?
Yeah, for sure. I think that natural curiosity, I think that's kind of what you alluded to was, the investigator really needs to figure out how things work, right? I think most
Yep.
of us, when we got into the field, were that way. I mean, granted, I'm at no level where you're at. I mean, I was started off taking my mom's toaster apart for crying out loud, not being able to get it back together, right? that was my skill set. But, it's trying to figure out, hey, these little coils actually heat up. Don't touch them. They get
Yeah.
really hot. You learn just by doing things. And that's, I think, is a real big important piece of,
Yeah.
That natural wanting to know how things work. And that's the way it should be, because cyber and forensics, like we were talking, are really like this. And
Yeah.
I don't know if it's the industry's fault that's trying to draw that line, saying, no, that's a cyber thing, or
Yeah.
that's a digital forensic thing. When it's really not. It's really just
Yeah.
the thing, because it goes all the way through, right?
Yeah.
And I think most digital investigators make that mistake of saying, oh, that's cyber. That's not what I do, so I'm stopping. And no, go explore.
Yeah, that's why I've been using the past few years kind of this like term of like intrusion investigations, right? Just because it's like forensics to me is like can apply to both, but even like on the corporate security side, right? Not all of them go down to like the deep forensics level. Like they may have like a SOC analyst who will do some level of like analysis on this, but sometimes they shy away from the word forensics because that implies like, oh, we're investing a lot of time in this. Right? Maybe we don't want to. Maybe it's like a relatively benign, ad piece of malware, right? That we're not going to do a whole lot of investigation on, as part of this, right? So it's interesting that like some of them are a little bit, gun shy with the word forensics, on that. So I don't know. I've just tend to lean just words of like there's intrusion investigations, just like there's child exploitation investigations, just like there's other kind of investigations out there. But focusing more on the intrusion aspect, right, of kind of unauthorized use, which may have overlap with others, kind of thing. So,
yeah, I agree, and I think Kevin has a good point. I just put his comment up there. He said that the scariest 5-letter word in law enforcement is cyber, and I agree. I think your people are intimidated by it a lot, and I know I still am, because it's still a world that I've been creeping over just because I can tinker now and break stuff without too much ramification. Now that I'm in my private sector stuff, but
it's so hard, right? Because it's looking at like this process, right? Is this process malicious or bad, right? And with other kinds of digital crimes, like it's there's of course gray area with CSAM stuff, of course, as well, but there's a little more cut and dry potentially, on some of these things, or even like, communications with a victim, like you can read through that and have some ideas on, is this going to be relevant or not? But if you're looking at a listing of processes or Windows services, right, and trying to guess if one of those is malicious or not, like,
I know.
60 of them that all look the same, right? It can be hard, right, to kind of figure out like, should that be there or not, right? And it's like, even on your own system, never mind a new system you don't control, right?
Yep, it's funny. I do that all the time. I'll see a process running. Obviously, I'm on a Mac, but I'll look at it. I was like, what? Why is that running? Why is that taking up so much memory? And I instantly get that paranoia factor, right? Because I have no idea. On goes Google, right? Or now ChatGPT. I'm like, hey, what does this process do?
Yeah.
And I think ChatGPT lies to me to increase my level of paranoia. It's good at that so far. So, because if it doesn't know, it just makes crap up.
Or uses Reddit, which is also making things up. Or someone made stuff up there. Right?
Yeah, see, I don't go on Reddit a lot. I should probably start going in there a little bit more, for sure. That's great. Now you have a webinar coming up next week, right?
Yeah. It's actually the same talk we did at Techno, right? Which honestly ties back to kind of the theme from a few minutes ago, which is this whole idea of like looking at like, I don't know, concepts, right, and operating systems and how computers work and whatever. We did a lot of work on cyber triage, on remote logins, right, in terms of like lateral movement, attackers getting passwords and accounts and kind of logging into various computers is a big part of any kind of intrusion investigation, right? Because there may not be malware in that system, but if the attacker's got an account, right, they can just kind of move around the network and log in as that person and do bad stuff, right? And so there may not be malware on there, right? So you have to look at the overall, where what's suspicious, what's anomalies. So anyway, in the talk we did at Techno 2 weeks ago in the webinars is, really about like approaching, remote access, whether it's RDP or, PowerShell remote or, file share or, launching service control manager for like a PS exec, kind of thing, but kind of taking a mental model approach or framework on like, what are the components of remote access? Like there's always going to be a process that's responsible for listening on the network for that kind of, to allow that connection, right? And it's gonna have its own artifacts, right? And there could be, there's a bunch of different things that do that, and they all have their own logging and artifact sources. They may or may not use the authentication infrastructure that Windows provides, but if they do, right, those all go to a different place for, the security log is going to have all those kind of artifacts, right? So the talk at Techno in next week is, to kind of folks who aren't Techno, it's really about kind of using this mental mind model, right, for thinking about remote access, and then like how you then like understand what artifacts exist, right? That like any remote access that uses like Windows authentication, for example, will probably have entries in the security log, right, or should. But that rolls over fast, right? But so you may find other logs though in other places that rolled over slower, that may give you some of that access. But that's all application specific. So you're just trying to approach that. Like I generally believe in these talks that no one's going to remember all the details as part of the talk. So I like to have kind of this like mental model, for things. Which I think it's kind of why the file system book was successful in that it was not about memorizing every bit and byte as part of like, MFT entries and whatever. In some ways, it was like there's file names. They point to metadata structures. They point to content, right? And, kind of the conceptual thinking of all the moving parts here, versus, this byte means this, right? And this means that. But just being able to kind of like conceptually think of file systems at some level. And I don't know, just the way my brain thinks. So I just, whenever we do stuff, I just kind of gravitate towards that and try and put that into our apps, into our software, right? At kind of that higher level, as well as some of our, our training stuff. So.
Yeah, no, I think it's really important for examiners to know that. I'm going to put a link here real quick into the chat, and then I'll put one into the show notes below. So you guys in the audience should be able to click that and hit register for that. Make sure you go and check that out, and obviously learn some stuff out of there. But and this is a good starting point if you're not already doing the intrusion type information and expanding your I like to call it just digital investigation now. I tend to leave out the forensic part just because, it's for court, granted, but maybe it is, maybe it isn't. If you're corporate, maybe it's not. It's just a digital investigation. And it really, there's so much to it. I mean, it encompasses so much. And this is a huge part. And it's an area I wish I was a little bit more skilled on. So I'll be signing up for that webinar as well.
Awesome.
So what do you think? So the webinar is, hold on, I'm going to jump over to the screen here real quick. Oh, geez. Go to webinars down for the moment. So yeah, sorry about that. So if you're watching this live, it's down for the moment. At least the
whole site is.
The link that I just clicked is down. It says, please try again. We apologize. An error occurred while processing your request. So give it a minute. We'll get back in there. Megan says it's Wednesday at 11 a.m. So there it is.
Yeah.
I was going to grab the title and so I was going to cheat completely off of the notes off.
I wonder if you got the wrong link or if it's
we used it earlier. Megan, can you post that again to me? I'm pretty sure I'm clicking the right one here. Yeah, I keep getting a. Please try again. Is yours open? Is yours fine on your end?
Yeah, mine was fine.
All right. So we'll get Megan to
I
post that.
I went to cybertriage.com, and then
Oh,
under
Megan goes, mine's
resources.
working just fine. I'm like, all right, it's just me then. So
Yeah, under resources, there's a webinar, a thing under
yeah, I don't even get
cybertriage.com.
that far. Mine just says no go on it.
Okay.
So I'm gonna.
Well, but your camera's working, right? You can't
That's
have
right. I'm
both.
not.
You
I'm
can't
not
have
pushing it. All right.
everything here.
Here, I'm
Yeah.
going to copy this again, and I'm going to paste it because this one that she just sent is absolutely working, and it's probably the exact same thing. And why one's working and not? It is. It's the exact same thing. I can look at it real quick and see it. My brain works in patterns, so I can see a pattern real quick, and it's no problem. So, jeez. So I was worried what I just posted wasn't working for everyone. Yeah. So yeah, it's 11 to noon, and it's called User Login Forensics, Merging Artifacts to Find Anomalous Activity. So you make me say the hard words.
Yep.
If it's over the words. So
you would not believe how much discussion internally we had over what the proper word is, whether it was log in or log on. This is a heated debate over whether they meant different things or the same things, and if we should just consistently use one word everywhere. It was because we did some of our UIs had log on, some had log in, depending on the person. It was like, oh, we should be consistent.
Yeah,
it's a lot of discussion over.
What's your opinion on it? I don't even know. Now you got me thinking about it. I'm like, what would be
so Microsoft uses log on for their sessions. They're like log on sessions and things. Unix uses log in, like their login sessions.
So we know that's going to be the right one then, right?
Yeah. So I think it's just everyone just has their own like default like words. So to me, like login seemed like more natural. But I don't know. This is like if you Google them, it's like the numbers are pretty much the equal, like in terms of like usage, for them. So
this tells me that you've Googled it, Brian. That's
yes, we did. There's because everyone on the team was like, who made it and put it as a login. We're like, no, it should be login. Those who didn't like log on, we're like, no, it should be login. So it's like we must decide somehow. So.
Yeah, I never even thought about that before. I think when your guy Aaron, when I talked to him, we were setting this up. He mentioned that, and it didn't click to me what he was talking about. I was like, oh, okay. I'm just curious. Those of you in the audience, that's funny, Kevin Hendricks. Hold on, I got to bring this up there. There we go. So you have Kenny logins. There you go. His login, Kenny. That's great, Kevin. You win the award for the best. It's borderline dad joke type stuff going on there. But yeah, that's great. I'm curious, what do you guys call it in the audience? Is it log in, log on? I don't know. I think I use them interchangeably now. You started a whole complex in me. Thanks, Brian.
I know exactly things that you thought were simple until now.
I know. And now I'm all paranoid about it. I'm like, like I really don't know what I use. Just one of those things. We'll wait for people to. Oh, here's another one from Megan. So there you go. Regardless, you're in the danger zone. So right on. So Frank uses both. So he's a both guy. All right. And other people like to stay quiet. Kevin says he uses logins. Of course you do. Of course you do. Of course you do. That's funny. So what's the? I don't want to give it away. I don't want to give any of the content really away about your webinar because otherwise people just hang out here and watch. But you want them to go to the webinar, check it out, and learn a lot of stuff. What do you think the main thing is that you want investigators to know about when it comes to login forensics?
Yeah, I mean the bulk of that one. So I'll be honest. As I told the techno class, like I literally finished that talk like 10 minutes before that because I just went down different like rabbit holes in terms of like what we were actually going to like put in there because there was a good like 4 or 5 hours of content around the various like approaches to remote access and various things. Like this is getting the weeds. It may be useful for some level of training course, but not for like a 1 hour kind of techno class or webinar.
Yeah.
But it's really kind of gets down to some level on this like mental mind model of these buckets, right? And then and then getting into kind of what you expect for things. Like, so for example, RDP, remote desktop connections. There's 3 different places that you often find artifacts for inbound remote desktop connections, right? So the first box of like, there's some application listening. There's the remote desktop services, which is the service responsible for receiving those incoming requests. It has 2 log files. One is the remote connection manager, right, which has certain things about like who's connecting to the TCP port and shows various things on who's coming in at various times and what happens. There's also one called the local session manager. Is responsible for figuring out like, oh, you're logged in locally now and you have these windows here and here, these processes open, but then you can kind of remotely log in, and it gives you the same desktop experience, right, when you remotely log in as locally. So this little part of the service is responsible for kind of switching back and forth of you disconnect, you reconnect, but don't fully log out, keeping track of like, which session to keep on reusing. So it's keeping track of new connections and disconnects and various things. There's a security log, which is dealing with the authentication dimensions of that. Of did Kevin put his right password in, and keeping track of how it's authenticated. So for like every connection for remote desktop, you'll find entries in all 3 of those logs recording different parts of just that authentication session, and then every disconnect and reconnect. And it's a bunch of overlap, but they have some commonalities. They roll over at different times. Security may roll over every few days. Your local session, manager log may roll over every 2 years. So you just get different amounts of information in these things, and just kind of the goal is like understanding like, why do they all exist? Like, what do these mean that they, a session may exist in one but not the other, and kind of that relationship. And then, it's at some point, which was beyond the scope of the talk, is like, how do you then like merge these, right? If you're really just looking for, did Kevin log in at 2:00, on Friday, right? Kind of how you just merge all that into kind of one, yes, no, kind of answer for that. So, our goal of cyber triage is, in order to kind of like make investigators' life easy, right, is, we define this concept of a session, which is like when someone attempts to access the system, whether it's successful or not, and ends when they disconnect, right? How do we kind of just show the user that session, but maybe merge together 15, 16, 20 different event log entries to kind of support the idea of it started at X and ended at Y, right? And there's a whole bunch of gory details if you really want to see the 1819 event logs that created that. But we just want you to be able to kind of see, hey, Kevin logged in at 2:00 on Friday, and that's it, right? That's all you need to know, right? From this location and these time frames, and kind of simplify that. So anyway, it's kind of the talk is really kind of more of diving into some of these things and supporting this idea on, if you're going to think about stuff, it's the process, right? It's the authentication approaches. Some don't authenticate, some do. Wireless, different kind of authentication types, but it's that kind of stuff. So
yeah, and that's what I've always liked about your talks, was that you give the why, and that kind of you build in the use case in there, as well as alluding to it. Gives a slower minded people a good idea of what kind of value that would bring to us in an investigation. That's thinking pretty awesome. So what else do you got coming up, man? Anything?
What are we doing? I mentioned.
Go ahead. Sorry.
No, so I mentioned the autopsy release. It's coming in a couple weeks. Well, the autopsy release coming out. Other stuff that we're working on in the general space. Actually, we're gonna have an autopsy cyber triage integration coming out over the summer. So you'll be able to kind of collect data with cyber triage and then bring it into autopsy if you want like a full text keyword search, which cyber triage doesn't do a full text indexed keyword search, but if you want to, you can get that with autopsy or other kinds of things. We're actually also building an autopsy module that can connect to the cyber triage infrastructure, which gives like malware scanning and file reputation of this file is good or it's bad, it's malicious, whatever. So that would be an autopsy module, so that if you want to know if there's, malware or backdoors, on the system. If you're trying to do the whole, prevent against the, Trojan backdoor, I didn't put that contraband there. Someone else did,
Some other dude did
kind
it
of
defense. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. Right. You can have that. There's no malware on here, kind of scan with that. So, that's going to be rolling out this summer. Yeah, a bunch of other kind of stuff going on with cyber triage. So.
Cool. Can you tell me, just because I lack the knowledge myself, is what tell us a little bit about cyber triage? What kind of capabilities it have? Things just to kind of school me up so I understand it a
Yeah,
little better.
yeah. I mean, so the basic idea is it. I mean, the really true value of cyber triage is the scoring, right? It's the a whole bunch of tools can bring back 10,000 artifacts, but it's the having it bubble up to the 10 that you care about most, right? So
Yeah.
we have our own collection tool. It's designed to run on a live Windows system. Linux is coming by end of year. But collects just the artifacts that are going to be relevant for intrusion, right? So we're not doing a full disk image. We're not even and we're not grabbing only the registry hive. We're actually we call it smart collection, right? We parse the registry hive on that live system, go through all the 40 auto runs, startup places, find the corresponding executable in DLL, and bring all that stuff back, right? Same thing with scheduled tasks or WMI actions or bits jobs and a whole bunch of other kinds of places that attackers use for persistence. But there's a bunch of collection tools out there, right? But they really kind of focus more on like what we call source files. Like grab the hive, right? Grab the event log, grab this database. But then like all those executables that are referenced by that registry hive, right? You don't have, right? Because it didn't actually go through it and pull out all of the executables. And that's gonna be the malware, right? That's gonna be the malicious stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So, our collection is all about how do you parse all those artifacts on that live system, or from a USB drive or whatever, or disk image, bring it back, right? And then apply all the scoring analytics. So, with cyber triage, you get access to 40 plus malware scanning engines with a service called Reversing Labs. It's like Virus Total, but it's not as much about collaborative and sharing with the world that you found something, but it gives you that kind of broad coverage of malware scanning engines. But it's really about this kind of, giving you those first clues on like, hey, there's a backdoor here. There's a funny configuration change here. Or, hey, this Kevin account is going out to is remote desktoping to a lot of different computers, right? Maybe that's normal, right? Maybe Kevin's an IT person, right? And he does a lot of remote desktoping, right? Or, maybe Kevin's, has been taken over and, this is someone else kind of logging in as Kevin and jumping around, the network. So things get scored in kind of rankings of being, bad or suspicious. And then you can kind of start from one and pivot to kind of figure out like, hey, right, malware is created at 3:00, right? Let's go to timeline and jump before that and see that, hey, this PowerShell ran before that and kind of keep on going back, for that. So it really kind of gives you that, the minimal collection, kind of bring stuff in.
Mm-hmm.
And then the idea is to guide you along, right? Really kind of guide you along. And here's your starting points. You like that? You may also want this. Not doing the whole investigation, but really kind of make you more efficient, honestly, and making sure you don't miss stuff, right? And
right. And I like how you explain it. You downplay your explanation pretty well. I mean, you're right, right? I mean, it's just like, it kind of does this and this, but other tools kind of do this and this, but it does. Yeah. It's huge. What you just told me was freaking huge. It's a lot of stuff that an investigator would have to go through to put all that together. And you guys are you're just like, yeah, kind of this and that. Yeah. That's a lot.
Yeah. We often get like, especially for folks who started doing this kind of stuff very manually, went through some courses, learned how to use a bunch of like command line tools, grab these files and parse these things, whatever. And, we check in on them after like a month or whatever. And they're like, my God, what used to take me 6 hours just to kind of get my starting points of collecting this and parsing that and copying that over here. It's like, I got in 15 minutes. Right. And I could then kind of, exactly. Right. and there's still a lot of there's still a lot of kind of, mental stuff to go through afterwards to reason about stuff. Right. Because, it still requires a human to understand like, right, what is the role of this user? What's their job? Right. What's the job of this computer? Like, should this user be on here? Like, we don't know that. Like, that's up to someone owning that to figure out whether this person is authorized or supposed to be on there. But at least kind of bubble up the things that are kind of should be answered, right?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, that's a lot of work just
Yeah,
done
yeah,
in a quick time, and from 6 hours to 15 minutes.
yeah,
That's a lot of freaking savings. And the manual
yeah.
stuff, oh my gosh, I personally love command line, always have. I don't know something I trust about it, but not a 6 hour command line task.
Yeah,
No, nothing
yeah.
that long.
I'll come back. So,
Yeah. So give something that at least gives you a better view or a better starting point, instead
yeah,
of like a zero starting point. You're bumping them up midway
yeah,
somewhere, right? To
yep,
give them a
yep,
better idea of how to proceed. So that's pretty awesome.
yeah.
What's the website?
Just cybertriage.com.
I can't talk and type at the same time, so that's
That's
why I had to stay
right.
quiet for a second. My single threaded processor up here. That's all you get. No, this thing even looks great. Oh my goodness! Yeah, if you guys haven't seen this yet, I'm gonna copy and paste this in the chat as well. We'll put that in the show notes too, down there. Make sure you go check it out.
Yeah, yeah. It's interesting. It's been around for several years, but honestly, we don't do a whole lot of like events and conferences with it, just because we found the good chunk of the people at the events are more, discussion before, like, don't want to do cyber intrusions, right? And so at some point it was like we'd have a booth there, but there weren't many people. But honestly, I've realized that people migrate towards it, right? And so there's some value of once they do of kind of having that overall awareness. So I think we'll start doing more of the what I would call traditional, forensic events, even if they aren't kind of as tailored or focused on kind of the intrusion side of things, but just there's good stuff there, right? And I think even with this, the autopsy module we're making now that gives people access, from the usual kind of traditional dead box forensics to kind of the malware scanning capabilities, for things. I mean, some people will, mount the drive in loopback mode, right, and kind of let their local scanner, try and scan for things, which has its own risks, right? You now have kind of malware on your system, or kind of that you could run, or kind of various things. So being able to stay within the disk image and doing that stuff, I think is a powerful thing. And ones that we're trying to do more of is kind of leverage the community kind of knowledge about how kind of common or rare something is, like kind of tying back to discussion before on, like, you see 60 services and you're not sure, is this normal, is this not normal, which one's an outlier, right? Of trying to kind of pool some of that data together to at least give you some kind of feedback, on, like, this has been seen before, this has never been seen before, like, this is unique, this is rare, right? This has been seen for the past 2 years, just to help kind of investigators also get some kind of context on things that are new to them, but may not be new overall, but just kind of new to them, for that. So really trying to, I don't know, get more of that collaborative, kind of crowdsourcing of information to bring that back with. So.
Right. And I think this is very important. I really do. And what gets me when I go to the shows, it's funny. I kind of see the vendors steering things, and they do a good job. They have to, right? They have to make money for what they do. But, and when it comes to the cyber, they don't focus on that, at least at the forensic shows, too much, because it's like a, you don't know what you don't know type thing. You need to, that part's important, but no one's really focused on it. And that's where I think,
Yep.
cyber triage is playing a big part in
Yep.
that. And that's where a lot of people don't even consider it, because they're not
Yep.
being told to consider it. Hey, we're telling you to consider it right now. Because it's important. I'm not saying that. I've known, how many years have I known you now, Brian?
Ooh,
quite a long time now. I was just a brand new guy at Access Data way back when.
I'm trying to think of how long ago that was.
It's been a minute. It was at Myrtle Beach. We met down at one of the shows down there.
Yeah.
Good. Everybody knows.
I would have had to guess at least 8 years.
Probably.
So, yeah.
Probably like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So and I'll tell you one thing. I know I'm going to talk you up right now. So if you don't like that kind of thing, I'm sorry in advance. But Brian, he's not the type of guy that's going to. I think I've heard you say cyber triage in normal conversation ever, unless I specifically ask something about it. And it's not something you ever just try to push on it, and I'll do it for you, because I think it's important. It's important in the community to start understanding those things, and that, hey, it's just not the registry hive. No, there's other places, there's other things that you need to consider. And the webinar, which I did post a link for, if you're just popping in here or seeing this later on, make sure you click that link down there and check it out. He's going to talk about
Yeah.
those things.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
really important.
The other thing I'll throw out there too is that for folks that are looking to get into more in like the intrusion space, there's a course that we have on Cyber Triage. It's resources, training, probably something like that. It's called the divide and conquer process, right? And it's a 3-hour course that's for free, and it's what we use as kind of our training approach. Again, my overall goal with this kind of stuff is like keep us kind of high level, right? I don't want users to actually even to think about prefetch. I don't want to think about kind of movie cache, right? Those are processes, right? The prefetch is basically saying that this process ran at some point, and so we just want to show the user these higher level things like processes. And if they really care that it came from movie cache versus prefetch, they can find out. But that shouldn't be the top level thing to navigate to, like what's in prefetch. Like I don't think people really care about, right? They just want to know it ran. So, we try and bubble these things up, and the whole divide and conquer course is all about this idea of, to me, I define digital investigations, right, as, it's a process to answer questions, digital investigation questions, right, which are things like, is there contraband, on this computer, right? Or is this computer compromised? Or did, Kevin, get unauthorized access to this box, or whatever. But everyone should be starting off with a clear set of investigative questions that they're supposed to be answering, with this. And the general idea here, right, is that some of these questions are really hard to answer, right? Especially intrusion in questions are really hard to answer, right? Because the evidence could be anywhere, not anywhere, but in a bunch of different places, right? Versus like, are there contraband images, right? Well, you answer that by looking for images, right? It's a bit more straightforward, right? Versus like, is this compromised, right? So the general idea is kind of like you solve hard problems by breaking into small problems, and you can answer big, hard questions by breaking them into smaller, easier questions. And the whole idea is you kind of like keep on breaking that big, hard question, like, is this compromised, into smaller and smaller questions. And eventually you can get to each kind of artifact and answer questions about that. Like, are there suspicious processes? Are there new processes, on this box? Are there unsigned processes? And you can get down to kind of like a bunch of questions you can actually begin to think about how you would answer, with these things down to kind of an artifact, level of things. And so that's how we kind of group our UI is all around like processes or logins or logons, whatever I call it. Users.
There you go. Turn it up in me. Like, dang it.
But anyway, so that's just kind of our overall approach to thinking these things, right? It's kind of, it's funny as people have we talked about this, they're gone through the course, whatever, and people have been doing investigations for like 15 years. They're like, oh yeah, that's actually how I do this. I hadn't really thought of it that way before, but that's kind of the mental model for this, right? And so it's just interesting as you're, getting into the space, right? The course kind of gets into kind of the how we approach intrusions, but if you're looking to kind of get some, general overviews of cyber intrusion stuff, you may want to check it out, because it's not about memorizing these different artifact things. It's more of like conceptualizing. You need to look at processes. You have to look at user accounts. You have to look at OS configuration things, and then different kind of behaviors of all those things, for that. So anyway, another kind of free resource out there for you.
That's awesome. I went ahead and put it in the chat, so it's
okay. Awesome.
It's down there in chat. I found it on the Basis Tech site real quick,
cool.
And
nice.
And threw it down there. I'll put it in the description too, because I don't know if this remains clickable or not in replay, because I know it disappears for like YouTube hides the chat for whatever reason for an hour or so, and then brings it back after we go live. I don't know the reasoning. It's YouTube, whatever. It is what it is. If anybody has, I forgot to ask this or tell you guys this earlier. If you guys have any questions for Brian, make sure that you pop them into chat and ask away. Also, make sure you hit that little thumbs up thing. I think we're just on YouTube today. Just pop that little thumbs up. It helps with our algorithm, right? However it may work, the mystery of it all of YouTube rankings. But it does help for like somebody who's maybe in that boat of, and how do I deal with this logins, and they're searching, and boom, there's Brian right there, and he's giving the answer. That's our hope to this. So if you guys give a thumbs up, we'd really appreciate it. If you want to know when we go live, which is generally every Friday about 2 o'clock, you can hit that little bell next to it as well. And subscribe. Hey, we got a couple thumbs. I wish you could do other things. That's probably maybe not a good idea, besides just that goes flying through the air, because I see it goes clear across my screen on this crazy console that I'm seeing. But Yeah.
We realized internally that with Google Meet, since we're a Google company, that you can send emojis into Google Meet things, and if enough build up at a certain time, the whole screen just kind of fills with the same emojis. So,
Oh, does it?
Maybe YouTube has the same effect, right? If you enough at the same moment, it just explodes with thumbs up.
I'm all for it. Let's break it. See if we can bring it down. People are hitting it, just not enough. Awesome, Brian. I really appreciate you you hanging out with me today.
Yeah.
And you guys, and there's some more things coming in here. I'll get to Kevin's, who spells his name wrong, by the way, to it just a second here. But make sure that you guys register for the webinar, which is going to be next Wednesday. If you're watching this in after that, is it going to be in replay? I'm sure it's going to be in replay.
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
Just make sure you
out of curiosity, is the other Kevin Kevon?
No, it's En. There he is, right here. He's mentioning some stuff.
I was going to say this could be a login versus logon of Kevin versus Kevon or something. This could be a one-to-one mapping here on like a.
That's even better. See, now Hendrix, you got to change your name to Kevon. I'm already the En. Sorry, man. It's already taken. You got to go with the on. That's the way it is. Hang on, I don't even know what do you say here? Most intrusions SLTT will be responded to, or field reports would be tech support scams, where the actors would have victims download AnyDesk. Oh yeah, I get that all the time. Somebody calls me up, and I use Mac, right? And they tell me something's wrong with my Windows machine. I'm like, okay, let's do this. They're trying to explain to me where the Windows and how to start a command line up, and I walk through it. I entertain them. It's more entertaining for me. But yeah,
and I believe I have to think through if AnyDesk is actually in the slides for next week or not. But that was one of the examples we went through, like TeamViewer and Chrome RDP and some other kind of other remote logging things. Just as kind of examples in that, like I don't remember AnyDesk honestly the details, right? But there's some level of some of them will use Windows authentication, and you'll see entries, in the security log, regardless if they were used, for that access. But some don't. Some just have a hard coded, like key, and you may never see them in the security log. So it's just why it's kind of taking some of these things on, like some of those cases where they convince the victim to install some backdoor software, remote access software, right? And you may or may not find artifacts for it. Because it's not using the same infrastructure, that Windows RDP uses or something. So
just switched it up on it.
Yep,
absolutely. I got a reality show idea for us, Brian. We should do it.
Yeah,
it's like I see on the Instagram and stuff all the time. These guys catching these scammers and hackers online and stuff.
Yeah,
and then they tap into their cameras on their laptop back in India or wherever they're at, and they just start saying, "Hey, who's that girl behind you?" And they start freaking out on the phone. We should just do that. That'd be fun. I'd have to rely 100% on you on the brains end of that thing, because I wouldn't know how to do it. But that'd be so much fun. Yeah. Anyway, have you seen those at all?
I have not.
Oh my gosh.
They just harass the people that are calling them and things.
So they reverse. They get the scammers' information enough to log in to their systems and activate a camera, and they'll talk to them about people in the room, and they start freaking out. And you hear everybody in the room start freaking out. Or if there's a camera in the room, they'll tap into that, and everybody runs out because they think the police are going to be coming. It's great.
My guess is that's not legal, but I don't know. I'm no lawyer, but it's like
into the technicalities. Doesn't matter. It's all fun. Oh, yeah.
When I had COVID a few months ago, and I was in the basement, spare bedroom, keeping my family free from things, I started watching Alone. That was the reality show series that I've been watching most recently, of trying to survive in the Arctic and for 100 days with a bow and arrow. I'm like, I'm not sure I would survive, honestly. I don't know.
I'd be dead.
Yeah.
Try to eat their arrow or something. Yeah, the one thing that would keep me alive. Yeah, in the Arctic, really. Oh man, I don't. I hate. That's what it is. Kevin Hendricks just said it's Scammer Payback is the Instagram channel. I think it's Instagram. I'm almost sure it's Instagram. So you get amusement out of it. So tell those guys to talk about cyber triage. Put it on your machines. Awesome. Brian, again, thank you so much. I appreciate
thanks,
it.
Have a good weekend.
Man, that hour went by quick. Yeah, It's been an hour. Boom, just like that. Amazing stuff. So if you guys want to get a hold of Brian, you can look him up on Basis Tech. I put a bunch of links down. I'm going to put them in the description as well. I'll copy all of those links out and throw them down there. So you guys can get these things after the show goes into replay. And Kevin, thank you. Dan, thank you. And I'm sure Brian thanks you as well.
Yeah, thank you.
So awesome. Thanks so much, man.
All right.
And don't go anywhere. Stay right here. We're going to go into post show here, and which is just us yapping after that. So, all right, guys, we will see you guys next week. Until then, make sure you join Cyber Social Hub. And I'm guessing that one trivia spot is already gone. Maybe, probably. But regardless, we'll see you guys next week. Take care, and thanks.